You're not as good as you think. Rousseau's warning. If you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, I'm a decent person, this video might make you uncomfortable. And it should. Because we're about to unravel one of the most unsettling philosophical truths ever proposed, that most of us are not as good or as virtuous as we think we are. In fact, we might be living an illusion so deep, so expertly crafted, that we're blind to how far we've drifted from our authentic self. This isn't just about ethics. It's about identity. It's about how society silently rewires you, and you don't even notice. Jean-Jacques Rousseau tried to warn us centuries ago. He saw a world where humans traded authenticity for applause and virtue for vanity. And now we're living in that world. You, me, all of us. And the scariest part, we think we're the good guys. The trap begins with something innocent, the desire to be accepted. From the moment we're born, we're taught how to behave, not to discover who we are, but to earn approval. Parents reward obedience. Teachers praise conformity. Society elevates those who play the game well. And over time, we learn that being good means being agreeable, polite, polished, productive. But beneath that surface, something far more dangerous is happening. We're not becoming better people. We're becoming better actors. Rousseau called this amour propre, a toxic form of self-love that depends entirely on the opinions of others. In other words, we stop asking, am I good? And start asking, do they think I'm good? That's the moment authenticity dies.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Think about it. How much of your life is dictated not by your values, but by performance? The job you chose, the clothes you wear, the posts you share online, are they expressions of your true self, or carefully crafted signals designed to win approval? We've built a culture where virtue is showcased like a product. We donate and then post about it. We help and then film it. We speak out not necessarily because we care, but because silence would damage our image. And we do all of this while believing we're good. But Rousseau would say, you're not good, you're just well trained. And here's the terrifying part. We've been trained so well we don't even realize it anymore. We've mistaken performance for personality. The person you show the world might be so different from who you actually are, that if you met your true self in a room, you might not even recognize them. Rousseau believed that before society corrupted us, we were naturally good, driven by compassion, empathy, and a deep connection to others. But civilization, with its layers of status, etiquette, and competition, taught us to suppress that goodness in favor of looking good. And because everyone else is doing the same thing, we start believing that this is all there is, that this performance is morality. But it's hollow, and deep down you know it. Let me ask you something painful. When was the last time you did something purely out of goodness, not because someone might see it, praise it, or because it would make you feel superior? When was the last time you helped someone without telling a soul, or admitted a mistake without trying to justify it, or chose truth over comfort? If those moments are rare, Rousseau would say, that's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Because once you realize you're living in a moral illusion, the only honest response is to wake up. And waking up means tearing down the mask, not slowly, not gently, but all at once. But that's terrifying, isn't it? Because the mask protects us. It gives us status, acceptance, even love. Without it, who are we? What happens when we stop performing and start being? Rousseau believed that the natural self, the real you, is still in there. It's the part of you that cringes at hypocrisy, that longs for simplicity, that feels joy in connection and sorrow and cruelty. It's not glamorous. It doesn't trend, but it's real, and it's enough. Still, most people will never find that self. Because the illusion is too comfortable. We prefer curated lives over vulnerable ones. We choose applause over authenticity. And we lie to ourselves constantly to maintain the illusion of goodness. We say, I'm not perfect, but at least I'm better than them. We compare ourselves to people we deem worse and use that comparison to justify our own behavior. That's not morality. That's ego maintenance. And Rousseau would say it's the core sickness of modern life. So what do we do? If we're not as good as we think, is there a way back? Rousseau didn't offer easy answers. He believed the solution wasn't in more rules or better manners, but in radical honesty, in stripping life down to what's essential, in reconnecting with our inner self, not the social self, but the raw, emotional, sometimes irrational core that actually feels the world instead of performing for it. That means withdrawing from the game, not completely. We live in society after all, but enough to remember that we are more than what others see. That the greatest good we can do is not to impress others, but to align ourselves with truth, even when it costs us everything. So here's the question I leave you with. If no one could ever know what you did, would you still try to be good? Or would the effort dissolve without reward? That's the test. That's the mirror. And it's the one Rousseau has been holding up to us for centuries. The mirror of self-deception. How we construct a false image of virtue. It's easy to believe in your own goodness. In fact, it might be the easiest thing you'll ever do. But that, precisely, is the danger. Because the more certain you are of your own virtue, the less likely you are to examine it. And that's where self-deception begins, not with malice, not with evil, but with unexamined certainty. We build a mirror, not to reflect who we are, but to show us who we want to be. And we stare into it so long that we forget it's a trick of the light. Rousseau warned us long ago that society trains us not to be good, but to appear good. And in that performance, we begin to fool even ourselves. We construct a version of us that is kind, fair, moral, humble, a curated self, polished over time, layered with justifications and good intentions. This self becomes the one we defend at all costs. When someone criticizes us, we don't hear a challenge to our actions, we hear a threat to our identity. We say things like, "That's not who I am," or "I didn't mean it like that," or "I'm a good person," not because we're trying to deceive others, but because we can't bear to believe that our actions might not match our image. We've fused morality and ego into one fragile structure. And when it's cracked, we panic. But what if the crack is the beginning of truth? What if your discomfort is a sign that something inside you is trying to wake up? Let's be brutally honest. Most of our moral decisions are not based on deep ethical reasoning. They're based on convenience, habit, or social approval. We recycle when it's easy. We're kind when we're in the mood. We post support for causes not because we've studied them, but because silence would feel incriminating. We select our virtues like outfits based on who's watching, what's trending, and what makes us look good. And then we tell ourselves that we are principled. This isn't just hypocrisy. It's self-deception at its most dangerous. Because once we believe the lie, we stop growing. We stop questioning. We stop becoming. Rousseau believed that the real self, the natural, feeling, compassionate self, is buried beneath layers of artificiality. And to uncover it, we have to be willing to destroy the false self we've built. That means admitting to ourselves that maybe we're not as compassionate as we thought, that maybe we've been driven more by pride than by principle, that maybe, just maybe, our virtue has been a performance, and our morality a reflection of the crowd. And yet here's the twist. That realization is not a collapse, it's a beginning. Because when you finally admit that you've been lying to yourself, you create the first opportunity for truth. You start to ask better questions. Not how do I look, but what do I value? Not how do I win approval, but what does it mean to live authentically, even if no one sees it? You begin to move from appearance to essence. But this journey requires courage and solitude, the kind Rousseau himself embraced. He walked away from salons and social circles, not out of arrogance, but because he knew that the self cannot be discovered in a room full of mirrors. It must be found in silence, in nature, in reflection, in the rawness of being alone with your thoughts. Can you stand in that silence without flinching? Can you face the parts of yourself that don't fit the image? The envy, the vanity, the laziness, the quiet cruelty. Because that's where real virtue is born, not in denial, but in confrontation. And here's the paradox. The more honest you are about your flaws, the more moral you become. Not because you perform better, but because you no longer need to perform at all. You begin to act not from ego, but from alignment. You help because it feels right, not because it looks right. You speak truth even when it costs you. You become less impressive and more real. And in a world addicted to optics, that kind of authenticity is revolutionary. So ask yourself, when you say, "I'm a good person," what are you really protecting? Is it a truth or is it a mask? And are you willing to take it off, even if no one claps? The seduction of virtue signaling. Why morality became marketing in a world where every action can be recorded, posted, shared, and liked. Morality has slowly mutated into something else, something hollow, performative, and eerily marketable. We no longer just strive to be good, we strive to be seen as good. And that subtle shift has changed everything. Rousseau, long before Instagram, TikTok, and cancel culture, warned that society encourages us to abandon sincerity in favor of spectacle. Today we live fully immersed in that spectacle. Our ethics have been branded. Our values have hashtags. And the line between genuine virtue and public image has all but vanished. We've become seduced by the aesthetics of goodness. It's not enough to help someone, we must document it. It's not enough to care, we must display our caring. And the terrifying thing is, most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We say, "I'm raising awareness," or "I'm using my platform," but deep down there's often a quiet, unmet need to be acknowledged, praised, validated. We want to be on the right side of history, but more than that, we want others to see us standing there. That desire, born of a more proper, Rousseau's word for ego-driven self-love, has hijacked our moral compass. We don't aim north anymore. We aim toward the crowd. This isn't just a critique of social media. It's a critique of how easily our desire to be good can be replaced by the desire to appear good. Think about it. When was the last time you made a moral decision that no one would ever know about? Would you still donate if your name wasn't on the wall? Would you still speak out if no one could hear you? Would you still act with integrity if it cost you followers, likes, or status? These are not rhetorical questions, they are spiritual diagnostics. They reveal whether your morality is rooted in truth or in performance. The danger of virtue signaling is that it feels like morality. It satisfies the craving to be one of the good ones without demanding the cost of real sacrifice. You can post a statement, share an infographic, wear a pin, and feel like you've done your part, but you haven't changed. You haven't grown. You've just aligned yourself with the dominant narrative long enough to avoid scrutiny. And in doing so, you've turned morality into marketing. You've reduced the soul's deepest calling, the call to justice, compassion, and truth, into a brand identity. And yet this system rewards you for it. The world applauds performance. It affirms the image. So we keep feeding the machine, unaware that it's slowly devouring our authenticity. We self-censor not out of wisdom, but out of fear. We say what we're supposed to say, not what we believe. We become moral puppets, pulled by invisible strings of groupthink. terrified of being misunderstood or misaligned. And we convince ourselves that this is maturity, when in fact, it's moral cowardice in disguise. Rousseau, this coming, he argued that the more civilized we become, the more we trade our inner compass for external validation. In the state of nature, humans were guided by compassion and instinct. But in society, we are guided by image and reputation. We no longer ask what is right. We ask what will make me look righteous. And that question, though subtle, erodes the very foundation of integrity. So how do we escape this seduction? How do we reclaim morality from the marketplace? It starts with silence, with doing good quietly, secretly, without reward. It starts with resisting the urge to post, to publicize, to preach. It starts with examining your motives not once, but constantly. Why are you saying this? Why are you saying this? Who benefits? Who sees? And most importantly, if no one could ever know you did this, would you still do it? The truth is, real virtue is invisible. It's forged in the dark when no one's watching. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It costs you something. Sometimes it costs you everything, but it also liberates you. Because once you no longer need to be seen as good, you become free to actually be good. So ask yourself, are you living as a moral being or a moral brand? And if the applause disappeared, would your convictions remain? The return to the natural self. Reclaiming authenticity in a world of illusions. We've gone so far into the illusion that we've started believing the mask is our face. But Rousseau's greatest message, the one that echoes louder now than ever, is that there is a way back. Beneath the layers of performance, beneath the approval-seeking and moral branding, there still exists a natural self. A version of you that is not curated, not optimized, not filtered for public consumption. A self that feels deeply, acts instinctively, and exists independently of performance. But to reach that self, you must be willing to lose everything the false self has gained. The return to the natural self isn't a retreat into the forest or an escape from society, though Rousseau famously romanticized nature as a place of purity. The real return is internal. It's a return to simplicity, to sincerity, to a kind of inner stillness that doesn't need validation. It's not about rejecting civilization, but about refusing to be ruled by its shallow values. It means living in the world without letting the world live in you. Ask yourself, when did you last feel truly present, not performing, not calculating, but simply existing? That moment, however brief, was a glimpse of the natural self. It's not grand or dramatic. It doesn't need attention. It's the quiet voice that tells you to be kind when no one is watching. It's the instinct to help, to forgive, to create, to love, even when there's no reward. That voice has been drowned out by noise, but it's not gone. It waits for you to unplug, to slow down, to listen. To reclaim authenticity, you must build a life that aligns with your values, not your image. That means saying no to applause when it conflicts with your conscience. It means choosing integrity over acceptance. It means disappointing people, losing status, and sometimes walking alone. But the reward is something society can't give you. Inner peace, the kind that comes from living in harmony with your truth. This return also requires humility, the kind most people avoid. Because to find your real self, you must first admit how much of your life has been shaped by fear, ego, and performance. You must confront the lies you've told, not just to others, but to yourself. You must hold up a mirror and not flinch at what you see. That's the hardest part, but it's also the most necessary. Because honesty is the doorway to authenticity. And here's the irony. The more you return to your natural self, the more truly good you become, not because you're trying to be good, but because goodness flows naturally when ego dissolves. Compassion is no longer a strategy, it's a reflex. Truth is no longer a weapon, it's a way of being. You stop trying to change your image and start transforming your character. And slowly, the need to perform fades. You don't need to prove your worth, you simply live it. But don't expect applause. The world doesn't reward authenticity. It rewards visibility, and that's the final test. Can you live a meaningful life even if no one notices? Can you choose depth over display? In a culture obsessed with being seen, can you be content with being real? This is Rousseau's challenge to us. Not to return to the woods, but to return to ourselves. To peel back the layers of performance and find what remains. To stop asking, how do I look good? And start asking, how do I live true? Because in the end, the only legacy worth leaving is not one of appearances, but of authenticity. So here's the final question. If everything you ever built for others to see was stripped away, your reputation, your followers, your image, would there still be something left inside you that is whole, honest, and good? That is the self Rousseau believed in. And that is the self the world needs now more than ever.